Thank you, Alison. Yeah, I've reread the book as well, because first time I read it, it was like some years ago in Portuguese. So now I reread it yesterday, actually, and the day before. And again, I had the same reaction as you, because it's, you know, it's very impacting. And I think the thing of the details is very important, because I think violence and these scenes of rape or any other kind of violence is in the details, isn't it? And the details are also what people don't want to talk about, because it's very graphic, it's very but really the details are the ones who tell the story, isn't it? If you don't go there, then you are just describing something with a word which, you know, in a way is meaningless. If you only say rape, of course it has a great impact anyway as a word, but it doesn't contain all the violence that was done, that actually happened, isn't it? Yeah, I was going to invite the public to, you know, intervene, ask questions. If anyone has any question, I would ask one. But does any? I'm seeing Don. Please, can you?
Yes. My question is, I love the ending. I love the ending because it was such a positive ending. And after all of the graphic details of the novel, which were had so much feeling in them, the ending was such a positive one. And my question is the ending concocted by the author, or were there really floods in Rio at that time? And were the area where the rape took place, was that area really sort of heavily damaged by the floods? Because the ending leaves us with the feeling that the symbolism of the rape, the details of the rape were sort of washed away, and the whole city was cleansed, and the protagonist was also cleansed of this terrible trauma. Can you tell us more about that, please?
É curioso você dizer que é positive.
It's interesting when you say it's positive. I don't have this feeling that much. Yes, there's this idea of cleanliness, but there's an idea of death as well. You know, a city that is agonizing. It is rain that destroys as well. It cleanses, it washes, but it destroys. I am not saying that your reading is wrong, quite the opposite. To me, it's something new, you know, you're giving me. It was very interesting the way I wrote this scene. I was thinking, how am I going to end this book? I am an author, and I don't know the end of the story before I start to write. When I start writing, I don't know what the end will be. The end comes to me as I write and as I approach the end. So the idea of the storm occurred to me because it's something very common in Rio and very common in Brazil. We have these storms that cause huge flooding and that destroy a lot. Alison has lived in Brazil and she knows how it is. We have storms, you know, houses fall down, people die, people have to swim, people are stuck at home because of the flood. And this idea came to me because it is an event common. It's a common event in Rio. And while I was writing, it had become another character. Together with Julia, Rio de Janeiro became a character in the story as well. I was writing the scene and I decided to do some research about Vista Chinesa, this place, because I wanted to be able to describe it in detail. And we are back to details. I was in Portugal and I wanted to remember some aspects of the landscape. So I was researching. And I found out that the storm had actually taken place 6 months before. And part of Vista Chinesa had been dismantled, and Vista Chinesa was shut down, had been shut down for 6 months. It spent, I believe, 1 year shut down, the Vista Chinesa, because of this major storm. In Brazil, it's almost impossible to write fiction because reality, you know, it comes before fiction. Things happen even before you make them up. And when you make them up, it has happened already. It's something that brought me joy in writing, I would say, you know, the joy of writing. And I found out it had happened. So I decided sort of to stuff my fiction with the elements that I found about the real events.
I might just add, I agree with Don. It's actually my favorite part of the book. I just think it's beautiful. And it reminds me of the short story in Granta that in English was published. It was called Blazing Sun. The way it ends and the way the city is a protagonist, and it ends with its absolute destruction. But that scene also is just devastatingly beautiful.